probably already done the rough math in your head. Mortgage payment versus rent. And it felt close. Maybe buying even looked cheaper. But that calculation is missing at least 4 cost categories that change the answer completely. And one of them alone can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars over 20 years. We ran the full 20-year numbers. The answer depends on one ratio, and by the end of this video, you will be able to calculate it for your specific market in under 5 minutes. Here's what that calculation was missing, and why adding those 4 categories changes the conclusion in most markets. The standard rent versus buy comparison most people make goes like this. My rent is $2,000 a month. A mortgage on the same property would be $1,800. Therefore, buying is $200 cheaper, and I should buy. That calculation is missing at least 4 significant cost categories that systematically favor the renter when included. Property taxes, homeowner's insurance, maintenance and repairs, potentially homeowners association fees, and the opportunity cost of your down payment. None of these appear in a mortgage payment. All of them are real costs of ownership that renters do not pay, or pay at a significantly lower rate. I find it striking how rarely these costs appear in the social media version of this debate. The mortgage payment gets compared to rent as if they are the same category of expense. They are not. Bankrate's 2025 study on hidden homeownership costs found that the average American homeowner now spends $21,400 per year on costs beyond the mortgage payment: maintenance, property taxes, and insurance. That figure has risen 26% in 4 years, significantly outpacing income growth. On a monthly basis, that is over $1,700 of ownership cost that does not appear anywhere in the mortgage figure most people use when they do the mental calculation. Here is the cost that receives the least attention in this debate. A down payment of $80,000 on a $400 home represents $80,000 that is no longer invested. Using a 7% real annual return, the long-term historical average for a broad S&P 500 index fund adjusted for inflation, that $80,000 grows to approximately $310,000 over 20 years. That is a net opportunity cost of roughly $230,000. That figure belongs in the calculation. Almost nobody includes it. The most persistent myth in this debate is that rent is money thrown away. Every rent payment buys you something: a place to live, without maintenance liability, without property tax exposure, without the illiquidity of a down payment, and with the flexibility to move when your life or your market changes. That is not nothing. Buying a home becomes mathematically superior to renting only after a break-even point, the year at which the accumulated equity and locked-in costs tip in favor of ownership over continued renting. Before that point, renting is often the stronger financial decision, and in many markets, that break-even point is significantly further away than the conventional wisdom suggests. Zillow economists analyzing 2025 market data put the average break-even timeline at 7 to 9 years, sharply up from the 2 to 3 year rule of thumb that circulated for decades. A Realtor.com analysis of homes purchased in 2026 extends that further. With a 10% down payment, the break-even may reach 10 years. Even with a 20% down payment, the timeline remains around 8 years. If you are not certain you will stay in one location for at least that long, the math does not support buying on financial grounds alone. This is where the national conversation about renting versus buying breaks down entirely. There is no single correct answer because there is no single market. A calculation that correctly identifies buying as superior in a mid-sized Midwestern city with low property prices and stable rents will give you the completely wrong answer in San Francisco or New York. The data is local. The calculation has to be local. The break-even calculation simplifies to 3 inputs: the total cost of ownership in your market, including all the costs the mortgage payment excludes, the total cost of renting equivalent housing, and your time horizon. All 3 variables are local and personal. None of them can be answered by national advice. Buying wins the calculation when the local property market is reasonably stable, when you have a time horizon of at least 5 to 7 years, and preferably longer, and when the relationship between property prices and local rents sits in the range the data identifies as buyer favorable. Which brings us to the number. The price-to-rent ratio is calculated by dividing the purchase price of a property by the annual rent you would pay for equivalent housing. If a home costs $400,000 and equivalent rent in the same area is $24,000 a year, the price-to-rent ratio is approximately 16.7. That number tells you something specific and useful. Research on this ratio across U.S. housing markets has established meaningful thresholds. A ratio below 15 generally indicates a buyer-favorable market. Property prices are low relative to rents, and ownership builds equity faster than the alternatives. A ratio above 20 generally indicates a renter-favorable market. Property prices are high relative to rents, and the capital is better deployed elsewhere. Between 15 and 20, the answer depends on your specific time horizon and local market conditions. The first time I ran this calculation on my own situation, the ratio was well above 20. That single number reframed the entire debate for me in a way that years of opinion-based advice never had. The calculation takes 5 minutes. Find the median purchase price for a home in your target area. Real estate listing sites give you this directly. Find the median annual rent for equivalent housing in the same area. Divide price by annual rent. The result tells you which side of the equation your market currently sits on. It will not give you a definitive answer about what you personally should do, but it will tell you what the math says. The price-to-rent ratio is not static. Markets move. In many U.S. cities, the ratio has shifted substantially over the past decade as property prices appreciated significantly faster than rents. A market that clearly favored buyers in 2015 may now sit in renter-favorable territory by the same measure. The calculation needs to be run on current data, not inherited assumptions.
The math answers one question: which option is financially superior in your specific market at your specific time horizon? It does not answer questions about stability, community, the psychological value of ownership, or your personal financial resilience if the market moves against you. Those are real considerations. The data framework does not replace them. It just ensures you are not making a decision based on someone else's opinion instead of your own numbers. To close, the full rent versus buy calculation in 3 steps. Step 1. Calculate the true cost of ownership in your market. Mortgage payment plus property tax plus insurance plus maintenance at 1 to 2% of value annually. Step 2. Calculate the true cost of renting equivalent housing, including what your down payment capital could return if invested. Step 3. Run the price-to-rent ratio on your specific market and identify which threshold your area sits in. Below 15, buying is likely the stronger financial decision if your time horizon is 5 years or more. Above 20, renting and investing the difference is likely the stronger financial decision. Between 15 and 20, your personal time horizon and local market trajectory determine the answer. No national rule, no parental advice, and no mortgage broker's recommendation replaces these 3 numbers. The rent versus buy debate has no universal answer. Anyone who tells you otherwise is giving you their opinion, not the data. The data gives you a framework. Run the numbers on your market. Your situation has a specific answer. Go find it. Run the price-to-rent ratio calculation on your market right now. Divide your local median home price by the annual rent for equivalent housing. Comment your number below and tell me whether you are currently renting or owning. I want to map where the Finance Deciphered Lab audience sits across different markets.